if Jesus, the one that is being understood across the world, he actually didn't die on the cross, and he actually lived, and he died on a mountain, and I can't remember the complete story, but he was married and he had children. So that means that his descendants, he had some descendants left on the planet, and if his mother Mary and his real father, if we want to say that, is the angel Gabriel. And does that mean that he still has descendants on the planet? And the second question is, Dr. Malik, I'm sorry, I'm so nervous.
It's all right. Take your time,
uh,
Malachi.
Papa Yunan
Yeah, Baba
is
Yanun.
does he have a counterpart um, on the planet at this time, incarnated?
Okay. Thank you for your questions. Right. So that story that you relate, we have to remember that there are different aspects to stories that we talk about, right? So the reference may be as it's relayed in a book or as people know it. And so we may talk about a story and say, according to the Bible or according to the Quran or according to this. However, you ask a very, very important question. And that is why they made the movie called The Da Vinci Code, right? If you watch that movie, The Da Vinci Code, it's trying to trace the bloodline on the planet of who you're talking about. And so it's very interesting because in that movie they tell you it's a female. And kind of what I'm saying is some movies, even though they may not have the actual facts, they still they still tell you the information in a way that will make you think, hmm. But yeah, to answer your question, there is a bloodline, and this is one of the reasons why when people give blood and give certain things, they think it's just about helping people that may need blood and so on and so forth. But there are banks that they look at blood, they look at DNA. People now sending their DNA to all these websites because they do try to find the bloodline on the planet of beings that are tied into our ancestors. And so, yes, to answer your question, that's very true. That's why it is very important in terms of when anybody pops up and says they're someone, they need to be able to verify who they are in terms of their bloodline. So when you mention like Dr. Malachi Z. York, for years people were looking and trying to figure out who this next person that's going to come along, known as the Black Messiah, and this is how they named it. Like you look at organizations that were specifically set up to look out for this. It's just like in the stories of Herod. You know, there are people who monitor the skies, they monitor, things that happen on the planet. And there were organizations such as COINTELPRO who coined this term, the Black Messiah, to look out and try to stop many leaders that came up that had a lot of influence, etc., etc., etc. So it's a very real thing where part of the way we were taught by the master teacher, Pana Babyanun, was to cloak us in the sense of when we were being taken through the different schools, this was part of them monitoring to see who is that person that's going to be able to come and like really wake us up on a level and on a success level that's never been done. And when they thought it was only about religion, because whatever religion we went into, we were not accepted by those that were practicing that religion. So it was like as we were walking backwards from Islam, we were not accepted in the Orthodox Islamic world. And it was the same when we were being taught, but they did not realize or know that we were walking back to our culture, Wu-Sabat. And when we got there, it's like no one could contest that when we started to teach about our way of life, that predates everyone, no one can really say, oh, that's not you. But we were not accepted in these religions, and it was just a school for us because we were studying and mastering it. And the only reason we still even mention or utilize religion today is because a lot of the people who are still stuck in them, we're trying to wake them up and get them away and get their souls to reactivate and realize that there's distortion and misinformation in these schools, and they're designed to, yes, to set you astray and take your soul. So you're right. I don't know if I've answered the question. If I haven't, you have to probe further, and then I will elaborate in anything.
Well, yeah, you have with the movie the Da Vinci Code, and I know that there is a chapel. I believe it's in Ireland. Supposed to be where the Templars hid some boxes or something like that.
Right.
Anyways, I find it interesting that that the Jesus that we understand was actually married and had children. Um, the other
Well,
the other
sorry,
thing,
the part of that I wanted to say. So even though we use the word Jesus, like you said, like these were ancient Egyptian, what people refer to as Egyptian anyway, people. That's why when you said the mountain, it wasn't actually a mountain; it was the pyramid, the step pyramid in Egypt. Because, like you said, the Templars, they helped once they knew some of the secrets because they were part of the plot to help him escape, and then he went by way of France and then ended up in Egypt and continued having more children and lived his life and died on top of what they call the step pyramid, and they was taken up. But that story is also, it's really referring to, that's why I was saying there are different ways of looking at a story. There's the actual literal story, there's the allegorical story, there's a symbolic story, because some things are passed down from generation to generation, and as you know, there will be Chinese whispers and things that distort a lot of the story to the point where the real story exists going back thousands of years in terms of how it then got plagiarized and then ended up in religion, like the Hera, or who we know as Hera, or people know him by Greek terminology as Horus. So you get the Isis, Osiris, Isis, and Horus story, which is then distorted, and it becomes part of the monotheistic religions, you see. So yeah, this is why only some secret societies, there were you had to be initiated to be told the actual real facts about certain things, and you had to swear and hold secrecy, and this is why they went about trying to eliminate and get rid of all the Knights Templars. And if you study that whole story, you're going to find a lot more information, as you say, tying it into, as you said, Yorkshire, etc., etc.